Is the intro still going?
Welcome again to the
Hello,
Smokin
everybody.
Tabacco Show.
Welcome to round two. Sorry, we had a very weird video technical issue.
Honestly, dude, I wouldn't even call it a technical difficulty. Like, it wasn't. There was nothing about it that was. It was just doing its own thing. I'm gonna tell you, man. Some things have been weird today. My cell phone down here in Miami stopped working. For like 2 hours, just stopped. There was no cell phone service.
Dude, the Apple CarPlay in my truck just froze when I got in, and it wouldn't work for 20 minutes.
Yeah, something's going on. It's crazy down here. But this is a Smokin Tabacco Show. I'm John Carney. This is Matthew Tobacco Your House. And we have Smokin Nicole with us. And tonight we have Michael Cappellini from Toscano Cigars. When shit hits the fan, send it to the guy that runs Hacking Gourmet, which is a complete disaster all the time. I specialize in disasters. So, Michael, welcome to the show. What is everybody smoking tonight? Matthew, what are you smoking?
I am smoking the Toscano Ducento, and I believe Michael is smoking the same cigar as well.
Yes, I am.
Did I say that right?
Duecento.
Duecento. That's what I'm smoking. Nicole, what are you smoking over there?
I'm probably going to butcher it, but the Still Novo. Is that right?
No, Still Novo.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Wait, that cigar, I mean, we're probably going to get into the cigars themselves, but that cigar in particular, Still Novo, is named after Dante Alighieri's movement, Still Novo or New Style. And the reason we call that cigar the Still Novo is because it's the only Toscano cigar with a binder.
Ooh.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Well,
Interesting. I didn't even know that.
It tastes great, and I have those.
No, those are fantastic, too.
And the best part about the show being on now is that I had a chance to communicate some things earlier. I'm actually smoking the Toscano XXL exclusive to Italy. No, I'm smoking the end of Airbender Chisel here, which was, which I said, I apologize to Michael that I didn't get a chance to get to a retail store today to pick up any Toscanos. So I had this little one here, and I thought it kind of looked at that, and Michael said that it looked kind of like the XXL. So for all intents and purposes, I'm smoking the XXL Italian exclusive. And I also get to now pronounce the Duecento. Well, I screwed it up.
No, that was pretty good. Better than the first one.
But, so, like, what does that mean? I can't, one, I can't pronounce it, and then two, I have no idea what it means.
So Duecento in Italian means 200. And we named this particular cigar the Duecento for two reasons. Number one, the Duecento is much larger in ring gauge and in length than, let's say the Toscano Antico or the Toscano Classico. It's 200 millimeters long, or 7 3/4 inches long, and it's got a 46-inch ring gauge. So that's the other reason why we call it. And then, obviously, 200 is in celebration of our 200th anniversary, which happened in 2018.
Very awesome. Yeah, this cigar is a newer release, right?
It is. Yeah,
yes.
We just released it last year. Yeah, well, 2020.
This is actually my first time smoking it. I haven't had it myself. I've seen it around. It's something I've had in my collection of Toscanos. I was talking to Michael before the show. I smoke Toscanos. I actually really enjoy them. They are a different breed of cigar. If you haven't familiarized yourself with them, it's a dried tobacco. So it's different than your conventional cigar. It's going to get a much different taste on it. I was describing as my ideal Toscano time as summertime, the warm summer air at nighttime, back deck, glass of wine, just kind of hanging out, chill, want something different with a lot of flavor. Toscano, that's my thing. And it's funny because we talked about a lot of people will cut them in half and smoke them in halves and smoke them in the wintertime because they're shorter and smaller, and in the wintertime people tend to smoke shorter. But for me, I think it's more of a summer smoke for me. But hey, everyone has their thing. That's just me. So
yeah. Now I found that interesting when you said that, because you're right. I mean, one of the traditions that we have with Toscano is cutting the cigar in half. We call it el sigaro dell'amicizia, or the cigar of friendship. So realistically, we cut the cigar in half, and you can share that cigar with somebody who maybe didn't have one, and then you smoke the cigar together. So it like encompasses what the cigar industry is: relaxation, sharing, and enjoying each other's company over a good cigar. Like that's really what Toscano is.
So there's a couple things I want to say before we get into the show. There's a reason why we're eating. Obviously, we drink, but we all prepared in the honor of Michael Cappellini. If you haven't been to a Toscano event or watched one of his presentations online, he always has a charcuterie board. There's always meats and cheeses. Since we got started a little late today, my board is a little bit mostly gone.
Wait, I gotta get mine.
But I've got on my boards, Jamon Iberico. So there's nothing Italian on mine, but it is in the spirit. So I have Jamon Iberico, and I also have duck prosciutto.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Tell me that ain't good.
You know, I almost bought some. It was rosemary flavored, so I just didn't feel like it went with the board, but I almost bought the duck.
Wow.
All right, so I was going to have a competition here. Nicole won.
Yeah, Nicole's is way better. I got some prosciutto. I have a little bit of white cheddar, and I have some crackers. I forgot to go shopping today, and I worked with what we just had in the house. And to pair that, I'm drinking an Italian red wine that is now about 2/3 of the way empty. I've been just sipping along here with my wine.
Ooh.
And I'm drinking Bonanza. I just got 2 cases of this. I got a really good deal. Unfortunately, 4 of the bottles came in broken since the Bonanza product up. A little bit here to label. But this is delicious. This is a brand new wine from Camus, actually.
Really?
No kidding.
Yeah, really good wine. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's a blend. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon blend, but it's delicious. It's really good. It's by Chuck Wagner. Right now, the prices on it are super reasonable. It will not stay that way, I'm sure. So I picked up a few cases. That's going to be our house wine here. But that's why we're eating on the show. But I have a question that I want to ask this is probably way ahead of where we should be, but I'm going to ask it because I've been dying to ask it. And I think a lot of people have been dying to hear. Now, Miami Cigar, I'm sorry for asking this question because you're our guest. Miami Cigar distributes your cigars, and they have announced that they don't have their sales force any longer. They scaled back their entire sales force, which is challenging. I would say for them, a big portion of their sales are their flavored infused cigars of the Tatianas. There doesn't seem to be any other system in place or any more communication. I have some insider information that people have stayed on with other companies that Miami distributed for. Yeah. So what does that mean for Toscano? I know it doesn't mean anything's going away. I think you've become bigger than the sum of the parts, which is a really fascinating thing, which we'll get into later. But where in 2021 does Toscano go in terms of distribution? I think you probably still have an agreement with them. And what are the plans and what are the realistic discussions, I guess, to the most that you could discuss it?
Yeah. I mean, realistically, the first thing that I'll say is Miami Cigar, the guys at Miami Cigars are phenomenal. Jason Wood does a phenomenal job. The
Great guy.
Great. All the reps are just really fantastic. Like you said, I think we're still with them currently. I would say stay tuned to see what the future holds for Toscano. But I think the biggest thing that needs to be understood is, and you kind of touched on it, is that Toscano's not going anywhere. So we're really excited for 2021. And, that's about all that I can divulge at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously an interesting situation. We would people watching it would be idiots to think that there's not some sort of a change coming or some sort of at least if there's not a change, there's going to be something that's done different. So that's obviously in the books, and that's obviously part of a discussion they've had internally. But I think the biggest thing is, and people say this all the time, I mean, Toscano's really not going anywhere. One, they've been there for forever, right? And then second, I never dreamed, like 15 years ago, I never dreamed, even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I never dreamed I'd be sitting in these premium cigar stores and having the massive impact that you've had. I've smoked more Toscanos in the last 2 years than I have in my entire existence. And I've really enjoyed them, and you've really done a fantastic job in enlightening the premium cigar world with Toscano and what that is. How did they approach you, and how did you get into this?
That's a great question. So first of all, thank you for the support. We really appreciate it. I mean, obviously, for Toscano, the sale of it itself is not always the easiest because it's so different in every way, shape, and form, which, again, I don't want to jump the gun. We'll get to that down the road. But to answer your question directly, Perotti and Avanti, who is our subsidiary or sister company, is actually located 5 miles from my house. The warehouse and the factory is actually 5 miles from my house. And the CEO a couple of years ago, Luciano Simeone, who's now my direct report in Italy, he and I became really friendly. And one day he's just like, you know what? I have a job opportunity. I think you'd be real good at it. You speak Italian. You're Italian-American. You know both cultures. You're really passionate about it. Let's give it a shot. And here I am 3 years later with the company, and they haven't let me go. So
they'd be ignorant to let them know. So if Luciano is listening,
Yeah.
you let this guy go, you're going to be in trouble, hands down. I'm not saying it because he's on the show. I'm not trying to pump his brakes here. Like, you will be in trouble if Michael Cappellini isn't there. So whatever you got to do to keep this man and keep him happy, trust me.
Yeah, no, there's no. Listen, we have a great team. Our Toscano team's awesome. Luciano's one of the greatest guys ever. We also have on our team here on the America side, Belinda Doyle, who's been in the industry for quite some time. So we have a really good, great team behind us. The marketing team in Italy is really good. So we're excited to see what 2021 brings.
I was going to say, I have to agree. You know, Michael is a great person to represent Toscano. I mean, I like every time I've heard him talk, and I've been to some of his events and stuff like that. He's just his Italian heritage and he knows the culture, and it just, you know, the language too. Like, it just fits so well. You know what I mean? Like, if it was someone like John who's like, "Hi, I'm John Carney from Toscano Cigars," it's like, yeah, John's a great guy and he'd sell the shit out of it, but you're just like
nothing.
Poster child for them.
Yeah, there's nothing that's more important, in my opinion, for the growth of Toscano here domestically in the last several years. There was always some good exposure here, but nothing like it is now, especially in the last, probably 20 years. There's nothing that's more connected to its heritage, and in my opinion, than Toscano, because you got people in the Dominican Republic that make cigars. You got Spaniards that own it, or this, that, Cubans, this and that. It's a really big melting pot of different cultures. So you put an Irish white guy in the United States and go out there with La Flor Dominicana, they're like, oh, okay, cool, that's cool. Like, yeah, cigars, like that connects to me. I look at a lot of stuff around the country, and I won't get into stuff, but I've seen retailers in certain areas where they don't really hit the demographic, they don't really hit the hit the mark on who they put in to run the retail store or brand ambassadors or what it be. I mean, they really, in my opinion, they really nailed it. When I saw you talk for the first time, and by the way, we'll stop making your head big here in a little bit and ask you.
Well, I was just going to interrupt you and say, for everybody watching, I did not offer any monetary.
No. Nothing. But when you started and I started seeing you out there, the first time I saw you on a show, I was like, man, they really nailed it with this. Like, this gentleman gets it. He understands what they're doing. They understand what they're doing and understand the connection that they're going to need to make here and in Italy, because those are two very important things. And I'm like, what a perfect example of how you actually do things the right way and make the right decisions and how it pays off. So I said, testament to you, testament to them for making the right decision. And I said very few things that I've seen in the last 5 years where I've been like, man, they really nailed that. And it's paid off big for you guys. I said, I never dreamed I'd be smoking as many Toscanos as I smoke now, and enjoying them too at the same time. So that's a really unique thing. But we can get into the meat and potatoes, Matthew. Let's do it.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. So one of the things that I was eager to ask, because I think a lot of our viewers who might not be very familiar with Toscano, they might have seen them, they might have heard of them. I don't know if many of them have ever even had them, because they are different. And I feel like there could be a stigma, like they look different, they sound different, like it's not like a regular, Corona Connecticut Shade cigar. I'm going to stick to what I know. And it's a shame, because once you try a Toscano, a lot of people go like, ooh.
It's amazing.
I judge this. This is fantastic. They're great. They're different, but they're really awesome. I do enjoy them myself. Now, one of the first things you'll notice about them, obviously visually, is that they are different. So this is a dried tobacco cigar. So, Michael, explain to us.
I'm going to hold it up, too. It's like.
Just explain to us exactly, how does that process work when making these cigars? In terms of that tobacco, what makes it different than your conventional cigar?
Sure. So I guess the first important thing to understand is where our tobacco comes from, right? Our tobacco is harvested in 5 different regions in Italy. Umbria, which is where my family's from, Toscana, Lazio, Campania, and Veneto.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about 70%, give or take, of our tobacco. The rest of our tobacco comes from the Tennessee, the state of Tennessee. We have a farm down there, Villa Toscano, USA. So the differential for Toscano tobacco is really the process, how we do it. And it hasn't changed since the first Toscano cigar that was ever rolled or made in 1815. Even though we celebrated our 200-year anniversary in 1818, that's the anniversary of our first mass production for the entire peninsula of Italy. The tobacco itself, back then, there was a massive rainstorm after the tobacco was harvested, and before they could cover it or bring it in, it got soaking wet in a rainstorm. So for all of us here on the show, we know that wet tobacco isn't our friend. It doesn't smoke well. It's a problem. But the tobacconists back there really didn't have a choice, because if they didn't fix it in some way, they'd have to go tell Duke Ferdinand at that point that they lost a lot of his money. So they let the tobacco sit in the sun. And what started to happen at that point is the natural fermentation process of the tobacco. So I always compare it to, if you've seen me on shows, I always love using this comparison. Like when you cut your grass in the summer, you dump it, that night the dew sets on it, the next morning the sun rises, it starts to hit that wet grass, starts to smell like ammonia, it's hot underneath, you can see the steam rising. The same exact thing started happening to Toscano tobacco. And it produced such a unique scent of ammonia that the neighbors got aggravated because it was making them sick. Believe it or not, it was making them sick. So the tobacconists then had to come up with a way to use this wet tobacco. So they actually filled out a barn that was down the road with a bunch of strings, draped the tobacco over those strings, lit a fire underneath it to make the tobacco more pliable, and that was the day that Toscano fire-cured tobacco was born. Wow. So we actually fire-cure the tobacco with woods. In Italy, we use mostly oak woods, massive, massive chunks of oak woods that every 3 hours, our tobacconists and the fire curers are in the barns stoking the fires to keep it at a consistent temperature and rotating the leaves to ensure that the bottom row doesn't get too hot or overcooked, et cetera, et cetera. In the United States, they use a very similar process, but use more of sawdust almost. And in the sawdust is a lot of hickory flavor, which is why when you smoke Toscano tobacco that is fire cured in the United States, in our farm in Tennessee, you get a real molasses hickory barbecue sensation to the cigar. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the biggest differential between them. What I always like to push home for everybody is the passion, the love, and the work that goes into every single Toscano cigar that the consumer smokes. Like from quality control to the harvesting of the tobacco, to ensuring that cross-pollination doesn't happen, to the planting of the seed, to the fire curing, to our 40 female cigar rollers, which, by the way, maybe we'll get into a little bit down the road, were one of the very first female labor groups that got equal work for equal pay. So, everything, and the cigar rollers themselves, they have to sit through an 18 months apprenticeship, and the current cigar rollers that we have, the large majority of them are from the same bloodline of cigar rollers from 1815.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah. Talk about heritage within a brand, you know what I mean? That's just, and that's one of the things about the cigar industry as a whole. It is a very family, generational business, but that kind of takes it to a whole nother level. And in terms of the actual rollers themselves being, the whole ancestral lineage there of rollers from the same families. One of the things I love about it is because of that dried tobacco, a lot of people don't realize this. These cigars don't have to be humidified. You don't have to put them in a humidor. You can keep them out. You can keep them in your pocket. You can keep them in the car. They don't have to be in a humidor. They don't need a humidor to stay fresh because they are dried tobacco. So versus a conventional cigar, which you must keep relatively moist to a relative humidity and under certain conditions to keep it fresh and to keep it, smoking to an ideal situation. Toscanos are a little bit more easy in terms of maintenance and just keeping them around. You can just kind of keep them and they're ready to go whenever. Now, the The other thing about Toscanos that's a little bit different is on a regular cigar, you cut it, you light it, you smoke it, you're done. With a Toscano, you don't necessarily have to cut it, or at least at the cap. You can cut them in half.
Yep.
So explain to us a little bit as to how cutting them in half is kind of a signature move of a Toscano.
Yeah, so I touched on this before. It actually might have been in the first take of the video, so I don't know if that was heard.
It might have been.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
Anyway, we'll say it again for those who want to hear it again. So in Italian, we actually call this cigar il sigaro dell'amicizia, or the cigar of friendship. So it's really it's part of our heritage, it's part of our culture, it's part of being a Toscano aficionado. I usually get a weird look from everybody, especially those who have never smoked Toscano before, when I tell them, like you just did, Matt. One, it doesn't need a lot of humidification, and then two, you could cut it in half. When I say that, I've had guys stand up and walk out and say, this is ridiculous. Like, to the point where I had to chase them to come and sit down and listen, because I don't like losing even one person when I do an event.
Right.
Like, I love people that hate the product before they smoke it. They're my favorite. Like, the ones that like it, yeah, obviously I adore you. We're nobody without you here in the United States, all of our consumers, but it's the guy or girl who refuses to even give us a shot at first that I attack in my events. I always I make as much eye contact as I can with them.
Yeah, and by the way, you have nothing to lose. Like, at the end of the day, if they leave hating you, then you didn't lose anything. And if they didn't, then you're good to go.
That's right. And fortunately enough, at least 95% of the time, I'm able to at least spark their interest, whether they fall in love with the cigar or not. So, but yeah, the whole point behind the cigar cutting in half is that of friendship. The reason that it started, though, was actually during the war, the World War II.
Okay.
World War I. So production was well up before the war, right? Demand was well up. The men went to war, demand started to drop. So they dropped production. Then when the war ended, everybody came back wanting to smoke Toscano. They couldn't keep up with demand, so they started to cut the Toscano cigars in half and sell them by the half stick to keep up with demand until they were able to ferment, age, and roll the proper tobacco cigar for the consumers. So that's really why the initial cut in half started. But my grandfather always says, like, there's a saying, it sounds a lot better in Italian. Two guys walking arm in arm in Italy up the street have trust with each other. But true friendship is found when those two men walk arm in arm and cut a Toscano cigar in half and smoke it together.
Can we hear it in Italian?
Yeah. Let's see if I can do it.
Get you on the spot.
Quando ci sono due uomini che camminando per la strada, braccio a braccio, c'è la fiducia tra di voi. Ma quando tagliano un sigaro toscano e fumano insieme, sono amici.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful fucking language.
Isn't it?
I just love that.
Hey, Matthew, you and Nicole were claiming to be very Italian earlier. I mean, can you guys say that?
No.
I can say buongiorno. That's about it.
I'm just fortunate I'm Irish. I just get to swear a lot.
Hey, Nicole's got the Irish in her too. She just can drink pretty good.
And I have the dual citizenship.
Yeah,
Do you really? You have your Italian citizenship?
No, no, Irish. I used to live in England for 7 years. My Irish family immigrated over there, and I went to high school in England before I moved back to America.
So she's got her UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So she's a multinational citizen,
Yes.
which is awesome.
That is
But no, that's really awesome, and it adds to the love story of Toscano, as I like to say.
You know what's interesting? You said something that's really unique with the social environment we're in right now. And this is not to get into social environment discussion, but I've been saying for a long time, like when the Black Lives Matter situation was going on, I was in Atlanta for this thing called Atlanta Cigar Week. It was mostly black cigar smokers. I was there. We were sponsoring an event. Man, we had a great time. It was awesome. You know why? Because of smoking cigars. You were talking about during the World War when they split cigars. Those people were having a great time in that moment from all different walks of life, fighting all over the world. We're in a really interesting time right now And I think it's very important for people not to forget that these really challenging times have always gone on. We don't get along anywhere.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've seen is that the premium cigar business, and it seems that that's one of Toscano's mantras, to be honest with you, and the ethos of what the company is bringing people together. And I've never experienced anything like the premium cigar world like I have now. We've always talked about it. But in the middle of Black Lives Matter riots and things going on, and whatever the situation was, protests, whatever the appropriate terms are, I was sitting there having cigars with people from all different walks of life. World War II, people there sitting having Toscano together. Also, that stuff wasn't that far back. So anyone that's watching this show that doesn't smoke cigars or just comes across their thing there, or if they do smoke cigars, smoke more of them, because we all get together. And you know, that's really what it's about. And I've never seen anything that actually has brought more people together than these. And you just told that story. There's a thing that's popped in my head. World War II and that stuff wasn't that long ago. We're not talking like the Holocaust wasn't that long ago. It wasn't 100 years ago. You know, there's challenges we have, and if everyone could just sit and have a cigar together and actually enjoy this, we really need to just honestly, I feel like we need to make sure there's a mandate on people smoking cigars, because it seems like everybody that sits and has cigars ends up getting along at the end of the day. You may have some disagreements, but it's fine. And it's just a really, really special thing, and it's been no more prominent to me than it has been in this last year with the challenging times we're in. And it's great to hear you say that story, because that's really what it is. Yeah. There's nothing better than that moment, and those two people, those two gentlemen and those two ladies walking down the street and sharing a Toscano. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, and again, I think that's a big thing that I try to preach in every single environment that I'm in across the country, because my territory for the brand ambassador side is the entire United States, right? The biggest thing to understand when we talk about smoking cigars is whether you're a doctor or a janitor, regardless of your orientation, regardless of the color of your skin, these cigars bring people together, and that's something that the world needs to understand. Like that's why I'm so proud to work for such an awesome company, because that's what we do. We bring people together. We bring people together, but the industry in general brings people together. Yeah. That's the biggest thing, that the industry itself, the premium cigar industry itself, brings core in the same room. And the second you light up that cigar, none of that matters. You're on the even playing field.
And I think it's important to make sure people realize that's not a cigar industry talking point that we just say. The reason we bring it up is because we actually experience it. Like, I witnessed it. I watch it. I get questions asked on it regularly. Like, it really is a thing. That's why we talk about it. And it can't be overstated enough. Yeah. You know, it's such a special thing. And I always thought it was a talking point, Michael, to be honest with you. I've been in the business now for 10 years. And for me, it was always a talking point. Cigars bring people together. It was part of my spiel, right? And I believed it, and I always experienced it, not like I have this year. Yeah. I mean, I've walked into environments, unique environments, and it does. I mean, it's actually a real thing.
Yeah, agreed.
I just want to do a quick shout out to one of our viewers, Michael Herklotz, of the new
Ferriotego,
who says hello and wants to send his best to Michael and Jon, great dudes. So Michael Herklotz is watching and says hello.
Michael's
and we just want to say hello to him really quick.
Yeah, Michael, when he was in charge of the Nat Sherman store, when we first went in there, he made us feel so comfortable and like family the second we sat down. So congratulations, Michael, if you're still watching. Congratulations to you, and we wish you the best success in the future here.
And Michael will be on our show very soon. I don't know. I don't remember the exact date.
First
Nicole,
week of February.
That's right. First week of February, Michael Herklotz will be on the show as well. So
the 3rd.
February 3rd. So stay tuned for that. So thank you, Michael, for watching along. So I noticed one thing about the Toscanos, Michael, and I'm sure you know about it, is I know that there's some pipe smokers who will chop it up into little chunks and will use it as pipe tobacco.
I do it.
Do you?
You do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never actually smoked pipe. It's something that it's on my bucket list to try it. I don't have anything against it. I just haven't gotten into it yet, and I'm sure I will. As a pipe smoker, I guess we'll give the pipe people a little spotlight tonight. Today. We'll give them a little love because we normally don't talk pipe. No. So as a pipe smoker who actually has done this, do you find that the experience with the tobacco itself is different in the pipe?
Yes and no. So, I mean, ultimately, when you talk about, by the way, I don't consider myself a quote unquote pipe smoker.
Okay.
My friend,
He's trying to avoid like a billion questions. If somebody's watching that is a pipe smoker.
Yes and no. Yes and no. No, but kidding aside, like, when you smoke pipe tobacco, you smoke pipe tobacco for the aromatic intensity of the cigar. You smoke pipe tobacco to really, really, really grasp the different aromatic sensations that you get on the palate. Toscano's really good for that. Obviously, I say this often too, like cigars themselves pair well with a lot of stuff, but, there are some real great cigar aficionados that haven't smoked Toscano before, but when I do a pairing with them and we drink the alcohol, and they see how it changes, that's what you look for. That's the beauty and the art behind tobacco itself. So, I learned that tidbit from my grandfather. My grandfather used to be a Toscano smoker, and when he would be done, and sometimes perotti too here in the United States, because Toscano wasn't readily available for years, he used to smoke his cigar all the way down here, get the end of it, put it in his finger, crumple it up, put it in the pipe, and light it and smoke it. So, yeah, to answer your question, it's different, but it still gives that pleasurable sensation on the palate that normal pipe tobacco does. And we actually use that, Matt, a lot as a talking point, especially when we go into cigar shops that have a lot of pipe tobacco that they sell. Yeah. Because, for a pipe smoker, it's sometimes difficult when you're stuck in traffic to, fix your pipe, clean it, put the tobacco in, light it, it's falling on you. Instead of doing that, pick up a Toscanello or a Toscano and just light it up, and it's very, very similar. It's not the same thing for the pipe smokers out there. I'm not saying it is, so to avoid the 1,000 questions, I'm just making that perfectly clear. But it is similar in many ways.
No,
it's unique. It's funny. It's funny you say that because, like, I try to be careful. I'm not very well versed in pipes. I have some knowledge of it, but the second I discuss something on pipes, I mean, it's a really deep discussion. There's a segment in the premium tobacco business of the pipe smokers. I mean, it's serious, man. The pipe smoking business. I have 2 pipes. It's not going to surprise anybody. I have one Italian pipe that has an American flag on it and 24 karat gold. It's pretty cool. No surprise. And then I actually have the other one. I also have my second favorite country in the world is Canada. It's a Canadian pipe, and it celebrated their it was the Canada 100, I think, or by 200, 150. Sorry, Canada 150, 150 year anniversary that I picked up. But I haven't smoked out of either of them. But I do see people smoke fire-cured tobaccos, and I do see them smoke Toscanos and things like that. And I also see people, you've probably seen this too, I'll see them take a little bit when the cigar's left at the end. They'll take it, pull out their pipe, put the cigar in, and smoke the rest of the cigar.
Yeah.
It's something that I've noticed at my local shop. There's one prominent pipe smoker, and I've seen him smoke all sorts of different things in the pipe. And I know that, and I could have this wrong, so if he watches it, sorry, but I'm pretty sure he's made his own blends, even using the Toscanos or the Toscanellos, the flavor infused line, where he'll mix the flavors too. He'll go like vanilla, and then like the cafe, and he'll like put a chunk of each in the pipe and almost blend it together and smoke it as one, to create his own little blended fusion of tobacco flavor.
It's funny because it sounds like one of those soft serve machines where he's just like mixing all the flavors together. He's just like, I'm gonna make this. But question as well, just talking about these, how are the flavors made? How are they infused, or the aromatics infused into these?
Yeah, I like that you used aromatic. That's the one word that I always use. I always use the aromatic word. So to give a little bit of context, we have 2 factories in Italy for Toscano, for Manifatture Sigaro Toscano. Our factory in Lucca, which is outside of Florence, makes all of the long formats. Like, the 200, the Antico, the Classico, the Garibaldi, the Antica Riserva, the, what else we have? Extra Vecchio. the Originale, all of our long formats. Then there's a second factory in right outside of Napoli, Cava di Tereni, where they make the aromatic cigars. So the process is, after the fire curing, we actually add the filler into big barrels and then add in the natural extract of whatever you're smoking. And as that happens, we turn the barrels. So the filler tobacco it absorbs in that aromatic intensity to a point where it's even throughout the entire cigar. So that's why when you smoke a Toscanello, you're not smoking an overpowering flavored cigar. You're going to get the fire cure on your palate initially, and the aroma around you is going to be that of whatever you're smoking. And then if you retrohale, unbelievable notes depending on what you're smoking. And your palate, too, as the smoke dissipates a little bit, you're going to get that little sensation of, like for you, for example, Nicole, you're smoking the Aroma Cafe. You're going to get a little hint of espresso and maybe even a little bit of hazelnut on it.
Yep, hazelnut, almonds, espresso. And I love the box because that actually says right on it, sweet, savory. Yeah. It kind of gives you the flavor notes right there to look at.
Yeah, the one thing about those that's great is I've actually used those to get new smokers into cigars in general. Mm-hmm. My own mother actually, finally, after all of this, got curious and was like, all right, what's the deal? What's the deal with the cigars? And I think the first thing she did try was the Atabey Lancero. But then after that, I said, okay, I'm gonna give you something different. We gave her the Aroma de Cafe. Yep. We gave her those, and she went, "Oh, what is that?"
Yeah.
And she was blown away, and she loves those. And that's like, she went from a non-cigar smoker to like her top 3. Toscano was like number 2.
That makes my heart happy that your mother loves our product.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to come back up to the estate. I gotta fix this.
No. But one of the things about these that I love is that I'm actually not a huge, flavor infused cigar person. A lot of them give me headaches, and just as you explained, with that process, these don't give me a headache at all. And that's what I love about them. So when I do want something,
it's less of a flavor infusion and more of like the term that Michael comes.
Aromatic.
It's aromatic. Yeah. It's like nobody describes pipe tobacco as flavor infused. Flavor infusion, in my opinion, is acid. Tatiana.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything negative, or anything flavored like that. I mean, these aren't flavor infused. These are flavor not even enhanced. It's
aromatic enhanced.
Really.
They're
curing and aging and fermenting that it goes through.
They're naturally aromatic. I never use the word flavored simply because there really is a big differential, and I love.
They aren't.
Going back to when I do events, whenever they look at the boxes and they smell them, and I said, okay, so I'm going to give you an aromatic cigar, and most guys and gals are like, you mean a flavor? And I'm like, no, not flavored. Nope. And again, there's the people that say, okay, you're going to tell me this isn't flavored, so let's hear your wonderful explanation about this. And then I go into it, and they're like, oh, no, I get it now. I'm smoking it. I understand what you're saying now. So, and, the Toscanellos are, the Toscano in general, as I stated before, is a difficult sell to begin with. But the Toscanellos in general are even a little bit harder because a lot of people are afraid to smoke anything with any aromatic intensity or flavor to them. So then once you get people to smoke these, they really do fall in love, like Nicole said, or like Matt's mom. By the way, I love that Matt's mom on one of his posts was like, hey, I'm smoking, or Matt's, how did she put it? Smoking Matt's mom or something like that. I read
Smokin Tabacco's mom.
Yes. This
yeah.
is phenomenal. She is a legend.
Yeah, she's awesome. It's funny you mention so we're talking about flavor and aromatics, right? And how people taste the cigars. And the thing that popped into my head was there's very few products in premium tobacco where when you smoke in those Vitolas, the smaller sizes, where you get that type of flavor, which is very coincidental because that's exactly because most of the Toscanellos don't have binders, right? You said there's only one cigar you have that has binder, right?
There's only one.
That's exactly how premium cigar blenders blend normal Vitolas. That's how they blend cigars. They smoke cheroots, and I'm sure there's an Italian name for it. But they smoke those sizes, and they get the flavors, and they taste what it's about. They're getting the aromatics. So it makes sense that you smoke that. You're going to have the aromatics, and it's dry, fire cured, and unique in that nature. But that's exactly how blenders smoke cigars. And smoke tobacco to make a cigar.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, when it comes to binders for cigars, obviously there's a couple different ways to look at it. A lot of people say that a binder serves some purpose, but mostly to make the cigar look beautiful. At the end of the day, I don't agree with that. Coming from somebody who represents a company that doesn't use a binder on 99% of our cigars, the binder itself adds an additional flavor profile to the cigar. But I look at it from Toscano's side that, it's not so much because our cigars are already packed with different flavors. Like, when we talk about the flavor profile of a Toscano, I'm not talking about the aromatics now. This is just a Toscano in general. The earthy tones, the peat moss, we're not ashamed when people say, you know what, Michael? It's almost like I could taste the soil, the nutrients of the soil that the tobacco was grown in. For me, that's a compliment. Maybe for some other people, they're like, why the hell are you smoking dirt? But for me, it just kind of gives the consumer another look into the passion, the work, and the craftsmanship that goes into each and every Toscano that's smoked.
What binder does is a couple things. Binder holds the bunch together, correct? And then you can put a really nice looking leaf over the top. Now, if you do a Puro where it's all 100% the same exact tobacco from the same farm, it's not going to change anything. It's there just to hold it together, and it's going to taste the same. So where binder makes the cigar taste different is as if it's different tobacco from the blend, from the bunch, or it's a different tobacco from the wrapper. Really what it does is allows you to introduce another leaf. And I'm assuming the cigar that you all have that uses a binder, it's not using the same exact tobacco that's in that's inside and on the outside.
Right. Well, and there's a good point to that too. That if I can, I want to talk a little bit about the tobacco from Italy. Like there's Italian tobacco, no question, but each region that the tobacco's produced in produces a different flavor profile of tobacco. Believe it or not. So the Toscano 200 that we're smoking is an American wrapper with Italian and American fill, a mixture of Italian and American fill, right? But like the Garibaldi, for instance, is all tobacco from southern Italy, Benevento. Southern Italian tobacco produces much sweeter, much lighter tobacco than that of even the Classico, which is only 3 regions away in Toscana. So I always compare it to wine or olive oil. The wines up north in Italy are mostly, some of the best wines are the white grapes, and it's a total differential from the Nero d'Avola in Sicily that's grown. So it's also, on top of cigar smoking bringing people together per our discussion, it also really gives the consumer a great look into the art and the differential in tobacco. So that's the biggest thing to understand for Toscano smokers too, because our cigars they all look the same. They all look the same, but each cigar has a different blend, whether it be a little bit or incredibly different, that changes the cigar profile in its entirety.
So I'm a big meat guy, right? I'm big into beef. Steak's one of my things with the cooking show and everything we do. It's Toscano cigars, and I mean this, it's elegance and primal at the same time.
Yeah.
It's really elegant, and it's very primal. It's the base of tobacco in reality. It's the base of premium tobacco, and it's really unique. And I'm fired up about it because I think it's cool. Because that's what we do when we go down to the factory. We smoke tobacco. It's not a Toscano. It's not a Toscanello. Every time I go down to the factory, there's little cheroots. There's little Toscanos laying all over the place, and that's what we freaking smoke.
Yeah.
So it's very primal, and if you really want to enjoy the root of tobacco, I mean, that's what you got to smoke. And again, with the fire curing process, it's got a unique manufacturing process in it too. But I mean, it's very primal.
I call it almost like a rustic tuxedo. Does that make sense? Like rustic tuxedo. Like it's a product that it's like you're saying, it's really elegant, but it also has its rustic characteristics. So like, I don't know, like a tuxedo from maybe like the Titanic era, like 1912, that you don't see every day now, but still looks pretty damn good on somebody who wears it.
Right.
So that's kind of how I compare the Toscano cigar to clothing. I don't know. That might be completely out of this world.
No, it's like you guys are like the Timberland boot of like the premium cigar world. A high-end product. It's rustic, primal. It's a boot, and people wear it, smoke it, enjoy it in a high-end environment. And when they have it on, it looks great. I mean, Toscano. I'm calling it Toscano is Timberland of the premium cigar industry.
I think I like that better than the Titanic tuxedo thing. I think I might go with yours.
It's an interesting way to put it, John. I couldn't have said it any better myself, to be honest. That's I like that. It's an interesting take. So not to change the subject here, guys, we will get back into Toscano, but really quickly, I want to hit our news segment. So Nicole, what do we got for news this week?
So we're going to do the cigar industry news brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. Join the ambassador program today. So this week
I joined the
You
ambassador
did?
program.
Are you officially an ambassador?
Did you get a coin?
But
You can't
it hasn't come yet, but I did join, and they announced it, and they treated me as if I had no idea, like if I just randomly joined as like a random person. But I joined the club. I am now an ambassador. I won't make that public because I do represent a premium cigar company, but I wanted to see what it was about, and I wanted to experience it. I'm now a McAuliffe ambassador.
I'm sure Andy was really happy about that.
I'm sure he was jumping for joy.
It's gonna be really of low value. I'm gonna be a very low value ambassador for them because I cannot promote or do anything about it. However, I am a member and I will have my coin.
All right.
There you go.
Well, welcome to the tribe. So this week, cigar industry news. Scandinavian Tobacco Group, the parent company of General Cigar Co., has announced that it will launch an entirely new cigar distribution company called the Forge Cigar Co., aimed at serving specifically brick and mortar retailers. So they're going to split up some of their brands. The Forge portfolio will include Chillin' Moof, and I might butcher some of this, Cofradia, Diesel, La Gloria Cubana, Partagas, Bolivar. Did I say that one right?
Bolivar.
Bolivar. Yeah, you're good.
Oh,
You can pronounce it however you want.
Yeah.
Close enough.
You live in a free country. It's a Cuban brand. You live in a free country. You can pronounce it however you want.
And not get my head chopped off. Got it.
Exactly.
General's portfolio will now include CAO, Cohiba, Hoyo. I'm going to butcher that one too. I'm not good with pronunciation, people. Can't
Hoyo
do
de
it.
Monterrey.
There you go. Macanudo, Punch, and a couple other brands. So they are splitting up. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, they're saying that they can get more people out and about to kind of promote those brands.
I'll go to
So
John
I guess
first.
that question is directed towards me.
Yeah.
So first of all, this thing was a secret. Apparently, I've been aware of it for about 4 months. It was something that nobody that works for them, by the way. So if anybody's listening to this, nobody that works for them told me. It was just something I heard through the grapevine. I didn't know what the plan was for it. There's three significant names that are involved in it that I know quite well and have had. Whatever that alarm sound was, somebody's got the SOS
Michael,
on their
did you
iPhone.
almost call 911?
I literally. I'm sorry. All I did was touch my phone and it started to call the emergency thing. And I'm
He's
like,
crying.
no.
He's like, oh no, we have an emergency situation.
I didn't think our show was that bad. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a cry for help.
911,
It's a
get me
cry
out of
for help.
here.
He's trying to get
Sorry,
out.
guys. I was just trying to look.
No, guys, no.
Oh,
He's gonna speak in code to 911 here for the next 10 minutes until they come get him.
I'm
I
on
need
the show
a
and
large
you know,
pepperoni. I need a large pepperoni pizza. Joking aside, that is something. If anybody's in those situations, there are things out there. Look for those. But yeah, the Forged Cigar Company, Forged Cigars or whatever the heck it's
Forge
called.
Cigar Co.
Interesting. So the national sales manager, essentially, who's going to see this is Sean Hardiman. He's a good personal friend of mine from over the years. He started with us in the industry, I'd say about 7 years ago. He's been with General now for about, I'd say probably 5 years, 6 years. So he's heading that up. One of my sales reps, actually, Cameron Calhoun, is going to be with them. He took that position over the last few weeks and communicated to me with a non-disclosure agreement. He couldn't tell me what he was doing, so we let him go over the weekend. He's going over to that position. And then there's another gentleman, John Galogli, who's from Rhode Island, who had a connection with Sean, who also worked for us. And that was where they started in the business. So there's 3 people that are involved in starting the business with us. And they're very well represented and have a good reputation. And they're going to do great no matter where they go. But there's some interesting points I have for that. So essentially, they're starting a separate division within their company, and I'm one to give opinions on things in the industry. If it upsets you, I apologize. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm very happy where I'm at, and all I do is say it how I see it. It's a very interesting concept. The first thing that's interesting to me that came to my mind is now General Cigar is going to have sales reps on the road with a separate division competing with their other sales reps. So that's a unique dynamic, first of all. General Cigar is a company that has a lot of newer salespeople, but they also have a lot of salespeople that have been around for a long time because they're a large publicly traded corporation, and there's people that have tenure there. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works when there's somebody competing with an existing sales rep for shelf space. It is a separate brand, a separate entity within the company. However, it's still the same company. So it'll be interesting to see how that rolls out and what they do with that. The brands they have are interesting. I think Chillin' Moose is a cool little concept. I don't know if Chillin' Moose is a long-term brand, but it's called Chillin' Moose. They also had like Angry Santa Clauses and stuff like that. It was through the CAO brand, which was interesting. So that'll be cool to see what they do with it. I'm interested in it in a time where I think where you've seen retraction with companies and everybody's kind of restructuring, figuring out what they're going to do next. General Cigar is going the opposite direction, and they're putting more people on the road in a time where there's a challenging moment to actually physically be on the road. So we'll see how that works. And as I said, the big thing for me is I'm interested to see how the premium cigar retailer is very temperamental. It's a very interesting business. It's full of entrepreneurs. It's full of entrepreneurs that were involved in mostly other businesses. There's some that are legacy, but they're doing this as either a way to say, I don't want to work for somebody anymore, and I want to be in control of what I'm doing. So they're very aware of that this is still the same company. It's an expansion. It's a great team. Sean's a great person. He's going to do a really good job presenting it. If it does not work, it won't be because of the effort that was put into it. It'll do very well in that regard. But I'm interested to see. I think the most challenging thing will be you're going to have two sets of STG general salespeople on the road, competing in the stores, competing events, doing this, doing that. There's a limited amount of space. So I'm excited to see how it rolls out. I'm excited to see how the team that they got handles it. And I think there could be some opportunities with it, but it's a very brave move in an interesting time. And I said publicly traded companies make very brave moves because they got to move the dial, right? The premium cigar industry doesn't grow 10% a year. So it's not like General when they're trying to return, they got to return, they got to create a return for their investors. It's not like they can sit and wait on year to year. They have to come up with innovative things. They got to do some drastic measures. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The one brand in there that's very unique to me is Diesel. So Diesel was a brand that was started for Cigars International. It's essentially Cigars International house brand, which was made by AJ Fernandez. I don't know if it's still made by AJ Fernandez. I believe it still is. So that's just another AJ Fernandez brand. They've been working that into retail stores over the last few years. But that was one of the biggest cigars I've heard over the last 10 years I've been in the business, where people have said, well, I'm not going to sell Diesel because I'm just going to sell it on CI through the back door at discounts, this and that. So, and which is what happened. So I'm interested to see how that brand fits into what they're doing. I'm interested to see if Chillin' Moose, that was actually in their press release, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't think I would have led with Chillin' Moose. I would have just kind of put it on the side. Maybe I'm ignorant and Chillin' Moose sells, tens of millions of cigars. They probably do sell millions. I don't know, but they led with that. So it was obviously substantial. And it'll be interesting to see what goes on, but it's a very interesting thing. There's three people that formerly worked for me in there. I wish them the best of luck. I think they've done some good things. Those people have done some good things in the industry, one with us and one with the other brands they work for. So they've got a good team. They got a good plan together, and they got a good person leading it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know. Seems strange to me, is what it is.
Side note, Chillin' Moose has a pretty cool band. If you haven't seen it, it's a moose with a stogie hanging out of his mouth and some red eyes, and he is chillin'.
So cool.
Yeah. Really cool. I think I had one once upon a time. Remember seeing it, not really. To be honest with you, I didn't even know what it was. I'm like, what the hell is Chillin' Moose? And I got one. I was like, yeah, it's not bad actually.
It's Nicaragua, I believe.
Yeah, so I've actually come across that one. But I also
General's tried this before. Okay, they're essentially reinventing something they kind of already did, but they're making it as a separate division under the same company. It's not like they're rolling out something entirely different. That team's still reporting to SGG. The gentleman Regis, who's the president of the company, was the person who put the release out. So, they're all still reporting to the same people. They're just creating a separate division. And for me, it's just another way to present a group of brands, hopefully in a different manner. And they tried to do this, and they did do a pretty good job over the last few years. I mean, you have Laurel Tilley, who's the brand ambassador for Macanudo.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with their brand ambassadors. You had Sean Williams from Cohiba, which is going to stay with the General side, I guess. And they did a good job of that. And then you had our friend Mr. Andrews, who represented Diesel, and he represented the Foundry cigars. And then you had Michael Giannini, who was there before. So it'll be really interesting to see what they actually do with it. To me, it looks like they're doing an alternative version of what they already did and putting it in a different light, putting it in a different category, and trying to kind of present it differently. I mean, there's companies that do this. This is not an unprecedented thing. It happens in the restaurant industry where you're a restaurant conglomerate and own many restaurants, and you create different categories, right? So you have like the super premium, the premium, and then regular premium, or whatever the way they want to produce it. So for me, they're essentially adding sales reps, is what they're doing. They're adding more sales reps. I think what they're gunning for, this was in the books before COVID. This was something they were working on. I think COVID put them in a spot where less people are on the road as things start to improve. In my opinion, this is General's way of saying we're going to put more salespeople on the road. We're going to put them with different brands and have them focus separately on these brands and have our people focus on what they've always been focusing on. And as I said, essentially for me, they're adding more salespeople.
Well said.
Yep.
Well said. With that, I think I want to hit our sports segment really quick so we can get back to Michael and ask him a couple more questions before we wrap up the show.
Get him on the sports segment. I'm going to go open up another bottle of wine.
What happened?
Talk sports. I'm going to open up another bottle of wine. I'm done talking for about 5 minutes.
You're skipping sports? You got so much input, though.
I don't have anything input for sports right now. Alabama roll tide. That's all I got.
I was just going to say, but we need to understand better who you support in college football, though. I wasn't.
Yeah, I have no idea.
By the way, I'll be wearing this for about the next month. I wear it regularly anyway, but I'll be wearing it on everything I'm on for the next month. And I'm celebrating so much the Alabama championship. I even started watching Alabama basketball last night just to kind of keep the celebration going.
How about that?
All right, we'll hit the sports segment really quick. It's going to be brought to you by Nova Cigars, Platinum Nova, make Nova big. Head over to novacigar.com and use our code SMKTAB15. You should see it at the bottom of your screen. That's SMKTAB15 to save 15% off of your next order. NHL starting up, I believe, this week. I think it's Friday night NHL starts up. NFL is officially in the playoffs. This weekend's going to be one hell of a divisional round. It is finally a matchup that I know I've been waiting for. John's been waiting for. Breeze versus Brady. Saints versus Bucs.
In the playoffs.
This is what we have been waiting for since Brady went to the NFC. We have been waiting for this matchup. The only other thing I think I would rather see would be a combination of Breeze Rodgers or Brady Rodgers. And I think that would be...
And we're going to get it.
Yeah, we're going to get it. We just don't know which it will be, but we're going to get it. I think that's safe to say. I think despite the COVID-19 stuff, this is one hell of an NFL playoff season. Seriously, I think this is going to be some great football. You got the Chiefs. The Browns upset the Steelers last week. Let's talk about that for a hot second. I don't think anyone saw what had happened coming. I think that people anticipated maybe the Steelers would collapse. They've been a little shaky. Maybe they would probably beat the Browns and move on to lose in the divisional round. But to get blown out by the Browns in the first quarter of the divisional round, I don't think anyone saw that coming. That was insane. I remember seeing that score and being like, did I miss something? They got like all the backup to the backups in for the Steelers? Like what's going on here? And yeah, I mean, I saw the fumble recovery play in the end zone for the Browns to get that first touchdown. I was like, oh God, here we go. Going back to the highlights. it's it's going to be a fun NFL playoff season. That's all I'm going to say. There's great teams, there's great football that's already been played and yet to be played. The NBA is underway. The NBA has continued on to the next season. Seems like it's going really well in terms of COVID and all of that stuff. The NBA seems to be playing really well. As I said, NHL will kick off. And earlier today, I did see a news report that said that I believe it was from the commissioner of MLB who said Major League Baseball's 2021 season will start on time as usual, as scheduled. Spring training and everything should be a go as normal. We hope to see that. We hope to see that baseball has more of a normal season. Last year was a little bit of a disappointment watching that financial lockout, if you will, of, they wanted to get a partial season going and a lot of it got held up due to money. And MLB players, as we've talked about, are some of the greediest players in professional sports. And, they got some baseball in, but luckily, hopefully we can put that past us and just have some regular baseball.
So Cappellini, what's your favorite sport of the ones we mentioned so we can deep dive on one of them? College football. Oh my God! All right.
We know where John stands. Roll Tide.
So what are your thoughts on the college football playoff? There was obviously a lot of cancellation of bowls, but I mean there was really interesting circumstances this past week, and I don't think anybody thought that game was going to go the way that it went.
No. I actually thought when we were watching it, I was sitting there and the first quarter was a give and take back and forth, and I'm like, wow, the Buckeyes are here to play. The Buckeyes are here to play, and then it just kind of went to hell from there. But it's been interesting to watch college football. Like I graduated from Penn State, so I'm a diehard Penn State fan. We're not going to talk about that. But let's continue forward with the conversation. But needless to say, it really is a testament to the players.
As long as you don't take showers, we're all set.
I knew that was coming.
You set yourself up, Michael.
I know. That's what happens. But no, kidding aside, it's really a testament to the players and the coaches themselves this is a hard year for everybody. Never mind collegiate athletes, right?
Right.
Like the NFL, the pro sports, whatever sport you're talking about, they're going to have another chance next season. A lot of the seniors this year persevered through probably a year that was the hardest that they've had since, I would arguably say, since the World War. So it's really a testament to the players, a testament to the coaching staff, a testament to all of the conferences for doing such a good job as they did. Obviously, I wait 365 days for the next college football kickoff. I always do. From the very end of the college, the national championship to the first kickoff in August, it seems like an eternity, but I'm really excited for 2021. And, it's something. It's really, I just really hope that everything just kind of cools and we can go back to whatever the new normalcy is going to be.
I think it was very evident, though, even though it was kind of a blowout. I mean, this is arguably the best Alabama team ever. They were very fortunate that Najee Harris decided to stick around and not go to the NFL. They'll probably be fortunate next year because I think Mac Jones might stick around for another year. That receiving core was ridiculous. I mean, Devontae Smith is out of control. Heisman Trophy winner. You had 2 Heisman Trophy candidates on the team. Yeah. Waddle is a fantastic player. He got injured 11 weeks ago, broke his ankle, and played this last week. But man, to be 20 years old again, right? You can break your ankle, and 2.5 months later, you can be back on the field. I want to see those doctors. But
I slam my finger in a door and I'm done for a week.
Yeah, exactly. I rolled over wrong in bed last night, and I had to stretch for an hour this morning to move my back. But it's really impressive. It's arguably the best Alabama team ever, and they were great. But I think the thing that was very evident in the environment of college football, because people may say, oh, they didn't play as many games, or they could have been better from this and that. I think it was very evident the 2 right teams were actually in that national championship this year. Ohio State,
arguably, for the first time in a long time, arguably. Having the right 2 teams in the playoff in the actual.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, as an Alabama guy, I wanted to see Clemson because they beat us. last year, and I wanted to see that again. And they beat us twice, actually. I wanted to see that one more time, just for fun. But they weren't as good of a team this year. Half their defensive line, almost all their defensive line graduated a year or two ago. Our offensive line, same thing. Trevor Lawrence is an absolute stud of a talent. He's really good. Fields is the same way. But that Ohio State team is really, really good. And I think it was the two right teams in there. And it was a really good national championship game, even though it wasn't good either. It was kind of a blowout, but it was good. It was the two right teams were there. Alabama was going to beat whoever they got put in front of them. There was no team that was better than them, and there was no team that was better prepared with COVID. They just kind of started. They started early, and they got pretty much everything they need to get. I know it's easy to say that as an Alabama fan, but I mean it is what it is. It was a great Alabama team, and the only thing I wish is that it would have been a regular season. So I could have rubbed it into people's faces a little bit more. But that Ohio State team is good. Fields is going to go to the NFL. Lawrence is going to the NFL. We'll see what happens with Mac Jones. And Devontae Smith's a stud. And it was good. It was a fun game to watch. And hopefully Ohio State's got a lot of their team coming back. It's going to be really good. Because I love watching Michigan get their faces pounded in every year. There's nobody that's more irritating than Michigan.
I'm just going to plead the fifth on that one. And we'll continue with the – let's go back to the Toscano conversation.
Oh, my God. Do you have a Michigan graduate in your home?
No.
All right.
No, but I sell to the entire country, so therefore I'm just trying to be nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, true. That's probably a better way to do it. Michael, you're so much more political than me.
Wait, who?
Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
He's trying to be nice to Michigan. He's not trying to talk trash about them. I've been ripping people apart. It is who it is. And, if it upsets you, then that's it. That's a they problem, not me.
Yeah, but realistically, at the end of the day, I just love the whole atmosphere of college football. I just love it because you never know what next year is going to bring unless you're Alabama, whose fourth string quarterback is as good as the first string in most schools. But other than that, it's just such a great atmosphere, college football. It's I don't know. It is what it is.
So
all I want to know, I've always curious about this. Do you remember when Matt Leinart was at USC?
Yeah.
Reggie Bush was there. The team was ridiculous. Yeah. They won a national championship. Reggie Bush wins the Heisman Trophy. Reggie Bush goes to the NFL, and Matt Leinart decides to stay. Why do you think he decided to stay? I think Joe McKnight was the running back that next year. They all decided to stay because they were getting paid to stay there. Why else would you not go to the NFL? Matt Leinart didn't go to the NFL because it was more financially sound for him to stay at USC for a year and do what he was doing. So you look at these big schools like this. That's why I think Alabama is very much a class act program. And I think Penn State had some issues, and there's issues out there and whatnot. But Alabama doesn't have scandals. They don't have these recruiting problems. It's a perfect example of having a guy like Nick Saban, and I think Dabo Swinney's the same type of guy. I think Urban Meyer used to be until he got caught in all those issues, right? But Nick Saban doesn't have scandal around him. He's just a great coach. He gets paid out the rear end to do it, and he creates a great program. I mean, after that game, how humble those players were, how they communicated. I mean, that's a program where those kids just want to go play because they could literally go and play at some of these schools and probably get paid to be there. And they're going to Alabama because they're going to make their lives better. And by the way, you got it because that team can punch its ticket. If you play for Bama, you're going to get a shot in the league.
Well, listen, I always say the last thing I'll say about it is that, you kind of hit on a point that I always take into consideration. Winning the game is one thing, but how you conduct yourself after is another. And I do agree that, and in fact, I think I commented, Coop had a conversation, and I think I commented on how respectable Alabama was after that game. You
did. I saw it.
Yeah. I was impressed by that. So it's an interesting thing to see, and kudos to them. And we'll just say we're really looking forward to 2021.
Absolutely, and I think with that, I think we'll wrap up our sports segment. I want to get back to Michael before we wrap up because we are running kind of close out of time.
Yeah, we got all the time in the world.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, sort of. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, so Michael, so back to you. We'll put the spotlight back on you. You're our guest tonight. We've had some fun. We had some charcuterie. We had some wine. We had some Toscano. We've learned a little bit more about Toscano. We learned a little bit about how you got into it. Nicole, did you have a question?
I do. What is your favorite Toscano cigar, Michael?
So, all right, let's break it down into two. The Toscanellos themselves, my favorite is 100% the Toscanello Rosso Cafe Macchiato, which is
a good one.
Our new release. The Toscanello Rosso Cafe Macchiato is different than the other Toscanellos because it has a little bit of a sweetness to the tip of the cigar, which adds another layer of the flavor profile that hits your palate. And when it comes to the long formats, I have two that are two total separate bodies. My medium to light-bodied cigar is 100% the Toscano Garibaldi. If you have not smoked it, I spoke about it earlier.
I have one.
It's all Benevento tobacco, southern Italy. It's delicious. It's fantastic. Named after Giuseppe Garibaldi, which is one of the two men who united the peninsula of Italy. Vittorio Emanuele came from the north. Garibaldi invaded from the south. They met in the middle. Legend is that where they met, they cut that blended cigar in half, smoked it together, and that unified Italy. And then
really,
that's the. I mean, obviously, I wasn't there.
That's awesome.
That's an amazing cigar.
Wow.
But,
and they did actually cut it in half.
That's, again, I wasn't there. That's what I'm told by our historians from Toscano. And then the more full-bodied cigar, my preferred more full-bodied cigar is the Duecento, no question. The hand-rolled by only a particular amount of our cigar rollers. And the cool thing about the Duecento is mine's kind of at the end, but you can still see it. So, like, if you look at the cigar itself, right, you see that that little indent and the uptick in the cigar itself. Yeah. Can you see that? It's very slight.
Yeah.
In Italian, we call that a storto, and that's almost like the signature of the cigar roller. So when she's rolling the cigar, she's going to put a little more pressure on a specific point of the cigar as her signature, so she knows it's her cigar that was rolled, which is pretty neat.
Wow. That's interesting. I like that.
I have one more question. So I'm not sure if this is true. I heard about it, though. Did Clint Eastwood smoke any?
I knew that was going to be the question.
Is that always a question? Is that a popular question?
It is, but and again, it's a great thing to know because obviously Toscano has had its place in American cinema for decades. We've only been mass distributed in the United States since 2015 via Miami Cigar. There it is. That's the Clint Eastwood cigar. Matt's doing it down on the bottom screen. But kidding aside, he was said to have smoked the Toscano Antico. And the story behind that is cool because Sergio Leone, the director of the Spaghetti Westerns, was a Toscano fan. And legend has it is that he kind of coaxed Clint Eastwood to smoke the cigar because he didn't want to. Like most first-time cigar smokers, they don't want to touch the Toscano because it looks so different and weird. But he ended up smoking it, and Sergio Leone was like, dude, if you want to be in my movies, you got to smoke my cigars. And Clint obviously smoked the cigar and became Clint Eastwood in the Spaghetti Western. Other really famous people that smoked Toscano would be Columbo. Columbo used to smoke the Toscano Classico and stuff.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And then Marlon Brando was said to have been won over to take the part of the Godfather in over a Toscano, cutting it in half and sharing it with. I don't remember if it was Puzo, Scorsese, or Coppola, but they cut a cigar in half apparently and smoked it, which is
funny story about Columbo. So Columbo is my mother's favorite show, and Peter Frakes was an animal. Peter Frake. Was it Frakes? Peter Frakes?
Yes.
Who's the guy that played Columbo? Nicole, look it up. Columbo. Peter. No, it was again Peter F.
Sure. I'm not sure.
So,
hold on.
I had mentioned to her one time, Toscano or whatever, and I showed her a picture, and she was watching a show when you were on the Cigar Authority. And she goes, those are the cigars that Columbo smokes. And I said, actually, exactly. Peter Falk is his name. Peter Falk.
Peter Falk.
You got it. You beat me.
I said, that's exactly the cigar that Peter Falk smoked in Columbo. I go, that's what he smoked. She goes, yeah, it's Columbo cigar. I was like, yeah, it was what he smoked.
I'm actually looking as we're talking real fast. If you guys have other questions, I'm looking for the centerfold in our Toscano tabletop book is of.
I do have a question. You just pulled some plastic off that, so like, tell me about that. That like, this is an actual book.
Yeah.
Really?
Nice. Yeah. What is that?
It's our
Yeah,
tabletop book.
I like that.
I almost put the lit end of the cigar in my mouth just now because I'm not a good multitasker.
Well, we're talking about Columbo.
Mr. Jonathan would have appreciated that.
But wait,
Columbo probably would have done that to solve a crime.
Wait a minute, Mr. Jonathan, we had this conversation. So during World War II, as I'm finding this picture, during World War II, my grandfather was smoking a Toscano cigar, and he was actually smoking it with the, here it is, by the way, here, our centerfold.
Ooh.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And my Columbo's in here too. My grandfather was smoking this cigar with the lit part in his mouth. Do you guys have any idea as to why that would happen during the war?
Oh, he wanted to hide the flames so that the snipers couldn't see him in the dark.
There's Columbo too.
There's Peter Falk right there. Yeah, he also smoked Candelas too. He also smoked Candelas. He smoked Toscanos and Candelas in the show.
Toscano. But so my grandfather would smoke the Toscano cigar with the lit end in his mouth, and he was a Timberwolf, 104th Infantry Timberwolf, and their regiment got fired on, and when it did, because his buddy lit the match and lit the cigar, the second that he started smoking it, they were fired on, and my grandfather's cigar literally went up and burned the top of his lip up here, like underneath the lip.
Shit.
So everybody's like, oh man, Clint Eastwood's like so awesome, badass. I'm like, yeah, he doesn't have anything on No-No. So.
Nope. By the way, I've been waiting for them to come out with it's gonna happen sometime in the next 10 years, a Columbo reboot. Because those were such good shows. I don't Matthew and Nicole, I don't know if you've ever watched them. I don't if you had, Michael, they're amazing. Every single episode, was like a movie. Yeah. I mean, they were like an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
They were great, and it was just awesome production. And in my opinion, Peter Falk's one of the legendary cigar smokers. I mean, the guy was smoking for an hour and a half straight on a show. So that means he must have been smoking all day when they were recording.
Yeah, honest to God, right?
I heard a rumor that Clint Eastwood actually didn't even like the cigars, and that's why he was able to. Something about he was easy for him to make that tough guy, that straight stare down face, and he put the cigar in his mouth. He was like, I hate this. He wasn't like a cigar guy, and he didn't like it. So when he had the cigar in his mouth, he had that look.
That's why he started smoking Toscanos, because he enjoyed the flavor, and it helped him grow into a premium cigar smoker. And he's a boss now. Had he not smoked Toscano, he'd been screwed. He'd been in a bad situation.
Oh,
so, Michael, so what's I know I asked the question about distribution. We'll move beyond that because I can keep grilling you on that, and that's not fair. What's 2021 for Toscano look like? What are you doing right now in the current COVID environment that we're still in? And then that's slowly going away. It's gonna go away even quicker after the inauguration's done. What's next? What does this year look like for you and for Toscano?
So I mean, our overall mission for Toscano is just to get people to step out of their normal box of cigar smoking and understand the beauty of Toscano. So, my job is to get in front of people and get them to do that. We have a great team behind us that's going to do a hell of a job in 2021, as we've been doing the past couple years. And we're just really excited to see the growth. We've been growing pretty well over the past couple of years, and I'm just really excited because, with every company, you maybe dip, then you start to climb a little bit. I'm waiting. I personally feel that 2021 has the opportunity to just skyrocket us into where we really want to be. So, but I mean, realistically, without the support of people like you guys, without the support of our retailers, without the support of our consumers, everybody who gives us a shot, we're nothing. So if I could take a quick opportunity to thank the three of you, number one, and to thank all the retailers and everybody who's giving us a shot, and then obviously to the awesome consumers that day after day go in and purchase Toscano. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. We got a lot of support throughout this past year. COVID hit Italy really hard and the United States. The outpour of support that I was getting messages to wish everybody well in Italy. It's really, again, it's just a testament to our industry as to how close we are. So really, it's a great thing.
And I'll tell you, like I think 2021 is going to be a big year for you. The last 5 years have been a big year. How you've been with Toscano now for how many years?
3.
3. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's been a fantastic 3 years. I've met people with your organization, your company before. They're always good. Always told the story very nicely, but they didn't live the story. I think you very much live it, and I think 2020 is going to be a great year. Eventually, you'll hit a little bit of a ceiling, and there'll be a little dip. And as I said, I'll say one more time: if you do hit that dip, I encourage the people that you work for that may be watching. A dip's going to happen, and I promise you'll be much bigger if you don't stay the course. So what's going on is huge, and what you've been doing is fantastic with them. And I'm sure they treat you very well because you speak very highly of what they're doing, and you really do live it. And it's been really fun. I've had conversations with retailers. I walk in, you got your display the display up there, and I'm like, did you ever imagine that this would exist in your store? And they're like, no, and they're like, I didn't imagine that, and then 2, I didn't imagine it was going to do as well as it did. And it's always the same question. It wasn't because of the cigar. It was just because of the way the image that people thought of it. And it's been changed. It's really, really been changed, and it's huge, man. For me, it's one of the more fascinating things I've seen in the last 5 to 10 years in the premium cigar side. I mean, it's a rebirth for the whole brand, and it's huge, man. You've been a big part of it, and keep it up because, again, this is my first show of the year. I was off last week, so I'm going to be a little talkative too, but I am just really impressed, man. I'm very, very impressed with what the brand's doing, and I would encourage anyone who's in the premium cigar business, if you're not carrying it, please do. Like it's such a great compliment to everything else that's going on in your cigar shop.
It's an add-on sale at first, like that's how we push it at first. It's an add-on sale, it's never going to take away from any other cigar. So yeah, for the retailers watching that don't carry it yet, let us know how we can help you. And I'll just say that realistically, you don't have success unless you surround yourself with good people. And I'm blessed to have been surrounded with some of the best. And, like I said, having the opportunity to come on this show, which, again, not to blow smoke, you guys talk so highly of me. I've been watching ever since I watched before a little bit, but ever since I got that invitation from you guys, I've just fallen in love with the show. I love how you incorporate not just the cigar industry, but you incorporate, cigar news, which a lot of people need to know. You incorporate the sports section, all kinds. It's a really well-rounded show, and it's awesome to see this kind of thing take off in so many different platforms. So thank you to you guys for the effort you put in.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Michael. We really appreciate it. This show means a lot to us. So to hear those things, it really means a lot to us. Especially people watching the show and can appreciate what we do. Thank you, and thank you for coming on. We appreciate that. We're really excited about this. We knew this would be a little bit of a different episode. It was a fun episode. Something that's
awesome, I've had a blast.
Awesome. It's a little bit different than what we normally do. Obviously, like I said, Toscano Cigars is a little bit different, but they're so fun. I've enjoyed this cigar. I'm still going.
Me too.
And I know we're gonna finish the show, and I'm still gonna have some. I'm gonna keep going. I'm not gonna just put this out. Seriously, I love it. It's so good.
But you could put it out. You could let it go out. Go back a week from now. Relight it.
I could. Dead serious though.
I had to get one more sales pitch in. I had to.
You're the only guy in the cigar business who gets to say, "What if I put this down and put it in a bag?" Please do it.
Yeah, right.
Put it in the bag. Like save it. When they do that with my cigars, I'm like, "Oh God, no! God, no!" You just throw it out when you're done. Like, please do not try to smoke this again. And it's just make sure the ash is gone and you're all set.
We all did stupid things as rookies. And in one of my first years as a cigar smoker, I made the mistake. I was at a shop. I was smoking a cigar. It was a little pricey, and I was like, the shop closed. It was time to go home, and I still had half of it left. And I was like, I don't want to put it down. And I cut the end off, and I put it in my travel humidor, and I brought it home, and that was a bad move. I learned
that. At that point, that's a financial decision. At that point in time, like you light up a $30 cigar, and you get a third of the way through it, and you got to go. It's like, I'm going to cut the end off, and I'm going to bring it with me, and I'll just deal with it. That's a financial decision at that time. But
but as you smoke too, the thing that sticks out most is how long they last too. That to me is how the more I smoke them, the more I sit here and I'm like, holy God, I'm still smoking this cigar. Like, if you look at it, you think it's going to be a 25-minute smoke. you make this smoke, you can make it anywhere from a 10-minute to an hour-long or more smoke.
Right.
So,
yeah.
and you talk a lot.
It was
like
funny.
it can last you 2 weeks. When you talk as much as I do, it can last you 2 weeks. So.
Cappellini and I on a show together is probably the worst thing in the history of the planet because we can both talk, and that's what I do professionally. And whatever, fine. I won't be apologetic. But I do have a quick funny story on. So Perotti is a subsidiary, right, of you all.
Yeah.
So I had a friend of mine, a very, very close friend, and we went on I used to live in New Hampshire. I'm from Maine originally. When I got promoted in my position 8 years ago, I lived in New Hampshire for about a year and a half. And we go on a hangout at a retailer there. And we'd all meet up every Friday. I'd land on my airplane. I'd come back. We'd hang out the shop till 1 a.m. We'd just get drunk, take cabs home, drink, smoke, whatever. I was gone for 2 weeks one time. And I came back. I mean, we have this rule that we wouldn't smoke any cigar that was more than $2 an inch. So when I was gone, I came back and they were smoking Ramrod Deputies. All right. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, Ramrod Deputies, right? It's inexpensive, fire cured. It's essentially it's the low end stuff, which is fine, but it's good. So they're smoking Ramrod Deputies. The retailer's like ready to kill us. And I'm like, I just walk into this and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, I found this cigar that's like 10 cents an inch or whatever. So we're sitting there talking. And he's like, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to sell them anymore. You guys are just trying to do this. And I was like, by the way, I had nothing to do with this. I had nothing to do with the Ramrod Deputies. I was gone for 2 weeks. I came back, and this is what I came to. I'm like, what'd you let them do? Anyway, to make a long story short, the last week we had graduated and started smoking other cigars. And the reason we graduated and started smoking other cigars is because my friend actually bought internationally a box of Perotti Europas, which was a limited edition European release.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So this box comes in from like Italy, and he's like, "Oh, I brought these. You guys are at these. I got these Perotti Europas, or these Italians, this and that." And I was like, "Really interesting." He's like, "Yeah, this is the last ones we're gonna smoke until we go to other stuff." And the funny thing is now he smokes Toscano in New Hampshire, and that's what he's buying now. And he's like, "Man, these are so good. I wish I knew about these before when I was smoking this and that. We were doing it I was doing it as a joke." He goes, "But then I kind of liked them." He goes, "And I smoke these Toscanos now." He goes, "They're fantastic." So now he's a Toscano smoker, and it's because of what you've done there, and they're in the stores, and he smokes them. So it's very funny, but that's how he became a Toscano smoker, from high-end premiums to smoking Ramrod Deputies to a limited edition Europa to Toscanos, and it's a big deal. And it's really interesting to watch the maturation of cigar smoking.
Yeah, we're proud of the work we're doing. We have a lot to do, but again, we're happy where we are, and we're excited for the future.
So, guys, we are running out of time, so I want to wrap up the show. But before we do, as always, we have closing remarks. We're going to go to our guest first, Michael Cappellini. Thank you for coming on the show. The floor is yours. Before we end the show, any announcements you want to make, anything you want to say?
I just want to reiterate, I want to thank you guys again for this opportunity. I hope that in the future I can come on again. I fully enjoyed everything that happened tonight. It's just a great discussion to be had. And I guess my closing message will just be, don't judge us by how we look. Don't judge the book by the cover.
Right.
And if you've never smoked Toscano before, give us the opportunity, give us the try. And if you have any questions, our company's there to answer all of them. You know, we're a great cigar for the outdoors person. If you're a golfer, a fisherman, a hunter, if you have a bike, these stay put together really well. If you're going 80 miles an hour down the interstate on your bike, they stay together. Just give us a shot. It's different, it's unique, but you're going to fall in love with them. So thank you to everybody who supports us, and we look forward to a really prosperous 2021 for everyone.
Absolutely. And thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. It was a great time. It was very informative. We had a lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have you on again. Jon, anything you want to say before we close out?
I do. It's been a big week this week. I've been very busy. Tomorrow on Hacking Gourmet and La Flor Dominicana, we have Gourmet Smoke Session number 4.
Yep.
October, November, December. Yeah. Gourmet Smoke Session number 4 is tomorrow at 6 p.m. It'll be streaming live on LFD Facebook, Hacking Gourmet, and Hacking Gourmet YouTube. That's going to be really great. That's with our friends at Mom's Cigar Lounge in Scarsdale, New York. Check that out. We'll be cooking prime New York strip steak. We'll be cooking 2 pounds of Argentinian red shrimp, and we'll be using a garlic aioli. We have jamon serrano. It'll be a great time, and we have the El Salud, which is a cigar that will be released tomorrow just for that session. So that'll be exciting. So join us for that, 6 p.m. Eastern time, live on Hacking Gourmet. Our friend Kyle Shackleton from LFD will be moderating tomorrow night's show. He's going to be our moderator for the sessions going forward, and we're looking forward to it. So it should be a really fun time, 6 p.m. tomorrow night.
Absolutely. We look forward to that. It's been a huge success for you, as we've talked about. I'm glad that the Gourmet Smoke Sessions have become what they are. And we wish you nothing but the best for tomorrow night. Good luck. I know it's going to be a home run, though. I know it is. It's just every time you do it, it's great.
I have 2 things, actually.
Oh, okay.
One more thing. Cappellini, how do we get a hold? How do we, if we're a consumer here, I know how I can harass you through back channels. How do we get a hold? How do we get a hold of the XXL here in the United States?
Well, that's a great question. Right now, I'll be honest with you, straightforward. We're not going to have it yet. It all depends on what happens with the FDA too. It all depends on where we are as a company. But there are some really exciting releases in the pipeline that you guys need to pay attention to coming up.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, we look forward to that.
Yeah. If anything like the XXL comes out, that'll be a cigar that I quietly smoke every day and pick a box up of, because I obviously very much enjoyed it tonight. But no, I've heard you talk about it a number of times. And people always want the things they can't have, right? And that's an annoying question that I get asked too. But that's a real thing. People that would be a really appealing size. It's something that would do really well here. I think you probably already know that, and everybody there does as well. So we'll keep our eyes peeled, and Smokin Tabacco will keep promoting it when that information becomes available, I think, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we'll promote any news you got. That would be awesome. With that, Nicole, what do we have at Smokin Tabacco that's going on? Anything special?
So,
by the way, I have a third thing.
Stealing my thunder, John. Come on,
John.
Third thing. It's about you, though. It's about you. I'm actually really happy that Nicole is on here, because we've been talking about this for a while, and you guys have done some shows on your own here the last couple of weeks since Christmas. And it's great to have you on the show on a regular basis, other than just behind the scenes. Having you on here is great, and it really brings a unique dynamic. So awesome. On to you. Anyway, your last words.
Thank you.
Very sweet.
I know. Kind words from John.
You say it like it's a surprise.
I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. But okay.
Wow.
Smokin Tabacco. We launched.
Yeah, everybody's like, "What the hell goes on after the show's over?"
Done.
I don't rip her apart. I usually compliment her.
Yeah, he's nice.
Oh, how come you didn't give me more airtime?
So, Smokin Tabacco, Matt and I decided that we wanted to start a sticker program. Everyone's got stickers out there. We don't. So for our Smokin Tabacco Cigar Club folks, we did announce it in there. If you go onto our website, smokintabacco.com, there is a link that says free stickers. Fill out your address. They're coming in next Tuesday. We will send you free stickers. I ordered 500 to start. 150 have already been claimed since yesterday. So
this is going to cost a lot of money.
Hey, and we're doing it out of our pocket, just for the fun.
Yeah. No, I saw how you had it set up. I'm like, this is going to be expensive.
And well, my dad. Well, hold on. I'm like throwing this out here. My dad is a printer, so he printed our stationery to go along with it. So it looks fancy. So I got an in.
Shout out to John.
Do you have anybody that works for UPS or anything?
No, we'll be paying for postage, but hey,
it's worth it.
I actually designed the envelopes. We have a nice like little thank you card in it and all sorts of fun stuff. So looks nice.
To give back to our supporters. So
yeah, it's not much, but hey, we figured we get in the sticker game. So that's one thing. Number 2, I'm gonna blow Matt up right now because he looks fine as hell in his Smokin Tabacco shirt that I designed also right now. So Matthew, we got some new swag in.
Has my swag come in yet?
No, not yet. I didn't even order it yet, John. I'm gonna be
she will
completely honest.
She will though.
But you will get it. Do you want one of those shirts?
No.
That's the question.
I want the zip up thing. We'll figure it out. It's fine.
But do you want one of those? That one. And it actually says Smokin Tabacco on the back.
So it has all the Vitolas on it.
Yeah, I'm
where's
down
the
for that too.
I don't see
Whatever.
the Toscano on there though. There's no Toscano on there.
There's no chisel too, because that's
Vanilla.
trademarked by John. So.
By the way,
We wanted to
Toscano's
do the chisel. We were
trademarked
told we
chisel,
weren't
so
allowed.
they did ask for the
We
chisel.
did.
They said, "Hey,
Some-
can you put chisel on there? Be cool."
Some guy at
And I
LFD
was
said
I'm
we
just gonna
couldn't
give
do
you a
it.
heads up. I go, I have the authority to say yes or no, but I can't get me in trouble. I was like, we can't actually put chisel on there. But then I said after, I go, thank you very much for giving me a really freaking great idea, the LFD shop store.
Exactly.
Oh, you're welcome.
Exactly, and I have that
But
design.
no,
I
we're
can send to
working
you.
on something. We're working on something internally that involves the chisel. But yeah, it'd be great. I mean, Michael, if the family would bless us with the ability to put Toscanello on that shirt,
It
we'd
would
be
be
happy.
on.
But we
Oh,
don't want
yeah.
to get it. We don't want to get into a give and take situation, if you know what I mean. Capisci?
I see what you're doing there.
I don't want to find a horse head in my bed. You know what I'm saying, Michael? Just because of a T-shirt.
I know, right? Yeah, anyway.
Oh god.
I mean, a cease and desist for the chisel's unique. A horse head in your bed, different story.
Okay.
Message received.
I know. But lastly, next week we actually have Kurt Kendall from Twin Smoke Shop in Londonderry, New Hampshire. That is next week. And 724, that will be a fun show. We have Kurt next week, and then we have Matt Booth from Room 101 the week after. February, we just booked in full. We're working on March. We have some great guests in February. I'm not going to announce them yet, but
we also have coming up very soon. We also have Abe Dababna from Smoke Inn is coming on.
Yep. That's a special feature.
26, right? Special edition?
28th,
yes, special
the
edition
Thursday.
episode. Yeah, it's a Thursday night. And he's going to come on. He's going to talk about the Great Smoke, which this year will be a virtual event due to COVID-19.
And I just talked to Abe at the end of last week via text. He and I go back and forth off and on. And Abe's very excited to be on the show, so that's going to be awesome. Look forward to him. He's great.
Absolutely. And then we're also going to do some live behind-the-scenes coverage at the Meatball event at Two Guys Smoke Shop in Salem, New Hampshire on the 29th. John, I'm sad to see that you will not be competing this year, but there is going to be...
I competed last year under protest for the way that the victory went. I was brought in to beat Saka. I did not. And the only thing that was the only consolation prize is that I got to deliver him a brulee meatball to poke even more fun at him on the brulee, which has been very successful. So yeah, I'm excited to see if somebody beats him, but the meatball event's always a good time. So it'll be fun to watch. I will be watching for that.
And that also is a virtual event. People can buy tickets on twoguysmokeshop.com. And that is for the main event. You do get a Dumbarton Tobacco and Trust sampler along with that ticket. Our behind-the-scenes coverage.
Are they doing in person as well?
Yes.
They're doing in person.
Limited amount of
a
select group. Yep. So we will be there in person. But we will not be showcasing. What?
I wonder where they got that idea.
I wonder where they got it too, John.
It sounds a lot like another cigar company's virtual event that involves cooking in cigar shops.
Should I post something online saying that they're doing that because I did and then delete it later? Should I do that, or should I just
Steve,
let
if you're watching this, I'm not involved.
Not.
I'm not stoking the fire. Mr. Jonathan M. Carney this is all.
I'll be honest. He might actually be watching. I don't know. And I have nothing against Steve Saka. I think he's a great guy. The meatball thing's going to be a good time. He and I have had a lot of fun together. And I think we're going to have Steve on the show sometime. So we'll have the showdown again. And it's become great. I said, that cigar is awesome. I had a lot of fun with Steve on it. He's a really classy guy in the industry. And I've never had the pleasure of giving somebody a hard time more than I had him.
Well, I hope we're going to get some airtime with him.
Cappellini's on deck, though. I'll be honest. I think Cappellini will be a good time. But then the problem with Cappellini is going to be he's going to have these Due Centos. He's going to cut one in half. He's going to be like, let's sit and be brothers and have cigars. I'm like, oh, my God, this guy's amazing. Like, how do I give him a hard time about anything?
Oh,
anyway, so tons of great events. Check out our show schedule. It's all online. Follow up. We have some great things.
You're so long-winded. Like, why?
I know. I have
long?
so many announcements, and one more huge announcement. So starting next Monday, every Monday for 2021, myself and Orlando Perez are doing a Smokin Tabacco HERF at 8 p.m. And we have almost 3,000 people in our Smokin Tabacco cigar club group. We want to engage with them one-on-one. So him and I, every Monday night, join us for a smoke. We might have some special guests on those episodes too. But yeah, anyone can come smoke with us on Zoom, and we'll post the link. So okay, now I'm done, John.
John, I don't know if I
done.
should say this publicly or if I should tell you this privately. Maybe it just doesn't matter. I was just gonna say, I'm just throwing this out there. You can shut it down if you don't like it. Send it on back. If you want to stream the gourmet smoke session on the Smokin Tabacco page as well for our listeners, you have permission to do so. It's up to you.
Well, I certainly appreciate the issue I have, which I text you on this, was when we stream through the multi-streaming services, they tend to throttle back the viewership the way it goes through the algorithm. Now, it's great because I know when it goes to Smokin Tabacco, it's live, so it reminds people, which is nice. But no, we'll just keep doing that, and I appreciate that offer. But I think here in the future, as we keep doing these herfs and stuff, and the Smokin Tabacco culture, and our relationships with the ambassadors and our guests here grow. I mean, I think we ought to try to find an opportunity or some way to do in the future, probably down the road, probably maybe not this year, maybe in 2022, where we do a Smokin Tabacco herf.
Yes.
And we have Hacking Gourmet cook food. We do something in person. We get our retail partnerships involved in it. We get our manufacturing partners and brand owners that have either been guests on the show. Maybe we pick our favorite guests and bring them in. You know, it doesn't have to even be a sponsorship thing, but I say we put something together where some people can be part of it, and it's a unique thing. And for me, I'm looking for ways to do things that are exciting.
Smokin Tabacco pool party.
I don't know if I want to see one cancel in a pool, but you know, with protocol.
Who said he's invited?
I mean,
no,
I
I'm
love
just kidding.
Juan.
I mean,
we'd invite it. No, we'll invite him, and he can do a little side piece and have the hot tub party off to the side. But there's definitely some fun things that we got going on. And as I said, Michael, we're glad to have you on the show. We're certainly going to have you on here again because it gives us an excuse to do charcuterie boards and wine, and we'll warn you the next time. Anyone that watched the show, I'm sorry for talking too much. I always talk too much. You're going to have to deal with it. It's fine. That's what I do. This is my first show of the year, so I was excited to be back on. And there it is. Happy New Year. Thank you, Michael Cappellini. Continued success. Where are you at next? What's next? Do you have anything next? Like, what's going on? Do you have any in-person? Do you have any virtual shit going on?
I do a lot of virtual stuff. I'm planning out the next month or so to see where we go, but that's kind of what I've been doing, a lot of virtual events with specific retailers that are interested in doing it. You know, the first couple were interesting. Now it's become really fun to do. So, you know, I would just say keep tuning in to Toscano Cigars on Instagram, on mine, Toscano Cigar Ambassador, and you'll see what we have coming down the pipeline here in the coming months.
All right.
We're really excited.
Tobacco. Last words.
So the last word, I'm going to end the show right here on the dime. I'm not going to embellish it too much. I'm not going to say what anything's planned because we still have to sit down and talk about specifics. But I'm going to leave you with this. Officially, mark your calendars. Friday, April 30th is going to be our 1-year Smokin Tabacco show anniversary, and it will be the May Day Eve Massacre 2.0. And it will have myself, Jon, and Nicole, and possibly a guest. Maybe not. It might just be us.
We should have Brian McGee and the people from Crown Heads on.
Okay, so we can reenact last year. That's all I'm going to tell you.
The show?
Absolutely, you will get your shot at redemption. But that's all we're going to say. There's going to be other things planned because we're in a much better position. We're going to make a huge deal of that show. But that's all I'm going to say.
Yep.
Mark your calendars. Friday, April 30th. John, you better have no events or anything planned. You got to be here for this. Friday, April 30th, 2021 is the Smokin Tabacco show anniversary, May Day Eve Massacre 2.0. We'll see you next week with Kurt Kendall.
Awesome.
Bye.